No, definitely. I think it's a lot more fun now that some rookies are coming like Jackus and Vladi. Definitely, I give you some extra hunger to beat those kids, even though I haven't. They've been beating me.
Yeah. So we are 1 week after the end of the LEC summer season, and I am in the presence of Larssen after, unfortunately, a bit of a disappointing 2024 year. It's been very difficult for you and Rogue overall this year. And I mean, first of all, I would like to thank you for accepting this interview and taking the time to talk with me today, because obviously it's been a very rough period for you recently. And I would like to just start by asking you overall, like, how are you feeling after the end of the summer season? Have you had like the time to process everything and just take into your mind everything that happened basically for the last few splits?
Yeah, I mean, happy to be here. Also, yeah, I mean, I still feel like I'm in a bit of a denial phase. Like, very surreal that the year is already over in July, or like even, I mean, it was June, right, when we went out, like 31st of June or 30th of June or whatever. Like the day after I lost, like I just went to office and I was like, just doing my off-day practice and getting ready to play Scrims the next day, but there was no Scrims the next day.
Yeah.
So definitely a very weird feeling, because I mean last year went out early as well, like early-ish, like August, July, like somewhere in the shift there. But this just like it just feels so real, like summer just started, like the summer split just started, and we're already out.
Yeah, I mean, you only played 10 games and the entire year is over in like the blink of an eye, basically. It just probably feels very rough for you guys, I can imagine. And the year just definitely did not go as expected, I can imagine as well. You guys started practicing for the summer season 2 weeks in advance, from what I heard as well. You guys were scrimming before most of the other LEC teams. So what were your expectations going into this split as well? And like, were you surprised, I guess, to see that you guys underperformed this hard compared to what you probably had in mind for this season?
I mean, at the start of the year, definitely, I had like very high expectations. I expected us to at least have a good chance to be top 3 team. It's like when I looked at the roster, I felt like it was a roster with a lot of potential. Like we had a lot of good players, and that it could become really good. Our summer season already, obviously, we already went 9th and 9th, so I knew that it won't be easy. Even though like coming into the year, I thought like getting top 8 wouldn't be a problem, right? For summer season, I knew it wouldn't be easy. Also, we needed to be top 3 in the playoffs. But I thought it was very doable, as I think EU teams are not like that strong right now. So I thought that it wouldn't be like too hard. The only like real strong team is G2, and then like BDS and Fnatic are like good. I guess AFK is pretty good now after botlane change. But yeah, I mean, it just seems like getting top 8 was too big of a hurdle for us in every split, which is very surprising. But yeah, I definitely had like way higher expectations for it. Like I thought it would be a top 3 team. Like at least have a good chance to contest for top 3 and go towards.
Overall as well, because as we mentioned, you guys like started practicing and scrimming way before other teams and stuff. Did you feel like before the start of the season that you guys had like better chances? Were the scrims going well as well? Were the on-stage results surprising compared to maybe what you had in scrims as well?
Our scrims have been solid. We had like some ups and downs. Like sometimes their scrims have been pretty bad, sometimes they have been good. But overall, I've been all right. Definitely like higher win percentage than stage. So definitely we had like issues on stage, playing like relaxed and playing like normal. That's all I've seen. We've been a very low team. So yeah, definitely had some issues on stage that we like never fixed. So I definitely think we're a better team than we showed. But also like we had like a lot of opportunities now to show on stage that we're a good team, but we haven't. So.
And you mentioned that at the start of the year you expected like that you maybe even like at the ceiling of being like a top 3 team, for example, and stuff.
I mean, even like winning title, that was like my hope, right? I mean, that's also the hope.
Yeah.
But also like January thought we will have the ceiling of like contesting for a title. I thought top 3 was like very good chance, but yeah.
And I mean, like, speaking of this as well, because I think most people know from rumors and articles that were made that you were one of the central pieces of the off-season when it comes to mid-lane players, especially in the LEC. So I would like to ask, like, how has your mentality evolved throughout the year? Because I guess you probably went in like very confident because people were regarding you as like one of the best players of the LEC in terms of mid laners, and you were very sought after as well. And now you are finding yourself in this position where you did not make playoffs in all 3 splits, and you are going into the off season. Still, you are signed to Rogue obviously until the end of 2027, but does it like impact the way you are seeing yourself as a player and like the game itself and like the league for next year as well?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I mean, it's like I'm a player with I have a lot of confidence in myself. I still believe that I can be a top 2 mid laner, and I still believe I can be the best mid laner in LEC and win the title. But obviously, after the past 1.5 years, definitely like hurt my confidence, and it's like before when I would go into a game on LEC, and unless we like played maybe a top 2 team, it's like I would go into the game and like know that we will like probably win the game. It's like we will like win the game. I'm like sure, and it's like probably won't be that hard. But now these days, like any game I go into, like even against like the bottom 2 teams, it's like it's gonna be like a hard game. It's gonna be we need to like fight for our lives to win. Definitely like a big change in mentality, and yeah, I mean it's like before it felt so easy to win, but now it's just like really hard to win. So definitely like affected me red, which makes sense after having like this wrap of a year. But I'm still like very confident in myself that I'm still a very good player. But definitely like some confidence in like how to lead the team to victory has like hurt.
I mean, as I mentioned just earlier, you guys, or rather you are signed to Rogue through the end of 2027, but I think you've probably heard yourself that there has been rumors floating around that Rogue at some point was looking to sell their LEC spot, and obviously we can't tell the future right now. We have no clue what's going to happen for next year, but have those kinds of rumors also maybe impacted your negotiations last year, and do they impact the way you are seeing your future in the LEC? And maybe do you have even like some fear for your job security in the LEC if Rogue ended up deciding to leave at some point as well?
Not really. I mean, I'm not thinking of the future too much. It's like I can't like just sit here and think about the future. It's like I mean, I'm living in the moment, so I just gotta prepare like the best I can for next year and make sure I'm in good shape for next year, so that I can like revive my career because I really want to go back to the top again.
Yeah.
So that's like the only thing I can do. Right, I can't like think about other stuff, and it's not like affecting me really. I'm just like trying to live in the moment and like whatever happens in the future happens.
And I mean, speaking of working to be the best possible next year and just like focusing on the things that you have control upon as well. Now you have about 6 months of break since the season ended in the start of July for you guys. So how are you planning to tackle the next few months? Because we've seen often some players that try to like do boot camps in Korea. They try to like do other stuff as well. Do you have plans for the next few months, or how are you gonna approach this off season?
Still very early ret. I just got home to Sweden. Haven't really made too much plans. The only plan I know is that I will make everything to get back to the top because really boring at the bottom. But yeah, I mean obviously like bootcamp Korea is like on the option. But I've heard that like it's not as good anymore, the Korean solo queue. But yeah.
And that aside, I would like to also just circle back to the end of the off season for you guys and just talk about what happened exactly, because at the end of week 3, when you guys took a win against Team Heretics, it felt like Rogue maybe started to look a bit better compared to the start of the splits, and then week 4 happens and it felt like you guys were maybe a bit more scared to make proactive plays and be yourselves a bit. And in some games, like it even went past the 40 minutes mark once, I believe. Things were maybe like not the usual Rogue that we could expect, basically, from like better games that you had in the league and stuff. So I would like to ask, like, going into week 4, did the stress of like having to make playoffs for this split, and especially with the results of the last few splits, impacted the way you play? And did you feel like you maybe had to play those scaling comps and like play more like less proactive comps and try to rely on these strategies, because maybe you guys like didn't have as much like confidence, I guess, just in your own plays and stuff?
Yeah, we're coming into week 4. We had like a very good week of practice. We like stomped some teams, so I felt like we were pretty confident. Also, we had like a relatively easy schedule compared to other teams as well. Like Heretics has Fnatic G2 and Vitality had like SK G2, and we had like pretty easy schedule compared to them. Also had like good week of scrims. I think we're like pretty confident. But maybe we're like, yeah, I'm not sure what's happened. But it's also like an issue we had the entire year, right? That we like don't play as aggressive on stage as we should. But we also obviously we came to like conclusion already like before Heretics game. I don't know who we played the day before Heretics, but after we lost that day, and then after the day we played Heretics, and we kind of came to the conclusion that we need to play a bit more scaling because we like weren't good enough of a team to play early game comps because we just wouldn't snowball. Like we would like maybe even lose early game with our early game team comp, and we felt like we tried it like quite a lot to play early game team comps, but we like didn't really succeed with it. So definitely like we tried to rely more on scaling for less games with the season on the line, which I think was a completely good call. Just didn't work out.
Aside from week 4 in its entirety, there's also obviously the question of Sunday, the last day of the LEC, where you guys had to play the second game against MDK, and then you had to wait 3 games to play your tiebreaker at the end of the day. So I would like to ask as well, like, how did you take that last day, and like, was it difficult for you guys, especially having like this long break of like 2-3 hours in between? Did it impact the way you played because you guys were standing backstage for so long, not doing too much? I assume probably maybe like playing practice or something like that, or 1v1s or something, and then having to go back into that tiebreaker. Was it difficult for you guys as well?
It's definitely not optimal yet to sit in a studio for like 4 hours or 3 hours, 3-4 hours. It's definitely not optimal. It's like not like easy, but it was the same in Spring Split. We played SK, I think like the second or first game, and then we need to wait in the studio for the tiebreaker against SK again for like 4 hours. Yeah, it's definitely not easy. Probably something we should have prepared for more, like how to tackle it and like how to make sure that we are in a good shape mentally when the game comes. But we were like basically just chilling in the studio, like not doing anything special. Yeah, it's completely fine. That's kind of what you do, right? Because we need to stay in the studio. Yeah, but I mean, it's definitely not optimal, yeah, to like sit in studio for that long and let your. It's very AFK, but
yeah. It's
can't really blame that.
Yeah, there's not too much that could have been done different, but it's definitely not easy like to just sit around and like have to wait for the match, right?
Yeah, no, for sure not. For sure not optimal, but yeah, we just have ourselves to blame for not like playing well enough.
So moving on to another topic, I think one of the things that have been very heavily debated over the last 2 years has been the LEC format with the 3 splits, the regular season with like the single round robin best of 1 stage going into best of 3s and then the best of 5s, etc. And a lot of people have criticized this format for various reasons. I mean, it is obviously very difficult on the players, as we saw, because you guys have very little time to adapt and try to improve as a team. And as we saw now, like your season is over in July, which is very difficult for you guys. And even aside from this, there's been some other talks about the fact that it's very difficult for the mental of players as well, and like can lead to burnout and depressions and stuff. There's been a very good article on .esports about it as well, with insider questions and stuff. And I would like to just ask of you, because you've been now 2 years with Koi and Rogue in teams that have unfortunately a bit struggled in this format. How do you think it has like an impact on just the teams in general and as a player and stuff? Are you more positive, negative on the format? Do you think things need to change as well?
I mean, first of all, I think the priority should be like what the viewers like the most, in my opinion, because we're playing for the fans, we're playing for the viewers. But also for players, of course. If you're, I mean, I knew coming into the format that if you like have a rough week 1, let's say you go 0-3 week 1, you're in a very bad position already. It's very like, yeah, it's very stressful already, and you're like playing with the split on the line if you have like a really rough week 1. But also, I never thought that would happen to us. It's like I thought, yeah, bottom teams will struggle, but at least I will get to play more games. But it has been the opposite. It has been us that has been bottom tier team, which is obviously very stressful, right? If you have bad week 1, bad week 2, and it's like very, very short season. But also, like as I said, like I think the most important thing is for the viewers. I feel like already when the format got released, I was pretty critical of it because I felt like the hype of the final weekend would be very low due to it's like being such a pro split, and now there's like 4 finals.
Yeah.
4 final weekends and like 4 trophies. I guess people actually refer to them as like trophies and like LEC titles, which like it kind of takes away the value completely, in my opinion, from winning LEC title. Like if there's 4 titles every year, the value of winning 1 becomes very low. I was under the impression first that only like the season finals, like the one in August, September, will be like a title, right? But now we're like calling titles left, right, and center, which makes it, yeah, in my opinion, like very low value. Not very hype. It's like, I don't know, Capital maybe end up with like 50 titles at this point.
Yeah.
It's like, it also like devalues like the titles of the past, like, yeah, in the older days, because now there's just so many titles. So that's like what I'm pretty critical of the format. Yeah, just that like the final weekend is like doesn't feel really that hype anymore, and like winning a title doesn't really feel hype anymore. I think like the best of 1 format is pretty hype because already 2 teams are getting knocked out like really fast, which brings some hype. But otherwise, like I mean, it doesn't seem like the best format for the fans. But maybe I'm wrong. But That's what it feels like.
Obviously, like the question of the fans is the biggest aspect because I mean, esports is just a thing that has to be watched by the fans, and obviously without the fans, you don't really have a job. On like a competition standard, I feel like it has been very difficult as well for teams to maybe develop like new talents. And for example, like in Rogue, you had Zoelis this year joining, and he was pretty hyped up, I think, before the splits. A lot of teams were excited about him and wanted to have him on their rosters. But obviously now you guys ended up playing only 29 games the entire year because of not making playoffs, which is very low. And I mean, it is much lower than what would have been like in the old format, for example, as well. Do you feel like on a competitive standard, this format is also maybe difficult on players and just on the teams themselves? Is it difficult for you guys to maybe try new stuff, and does it incentivize you to, for example, like play those styles of like more scaling comps, for example, that are like more sure or like secure for you guys, and does it stifles your innovation as well?
Yeah, I mean, for sure it does, right? As I said before, if you go like have a really rough week 1 and then like a hard start to week 2, you're really in a spot where you really need to like be careful of what you pick and how you play. Like for example, like as I said before, for the last week we just went into like making sure we have good scaling because that's usually the easiest way to win a stage. But yeah, obviously like for a rookie like Zoelis, it has been really tough because like every split has started rough and he's a rookie. It's not a very good environment for him to develop in.
Yeah.
So definitely for especially him, it has been a hard ride. But yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing is the format for the fans, and I'm not sure how good the format is for the fans. But yeah.
All right, so we
Also, like I mean, that's also like a good thing with the formats, right? Which is that the top tier teams gets to play more games. Like if you play more best of 3s, more best of 5s.
Yeah.
So that's something I think is like very good with the format, right?
Yeah.
That you get to play more best of 3s and more best of 5s. So it's definitely not like only bad things. I think there's a lot of positives to the format as well. As I said, with the top teams, it's better, I feel like.
Yeah.
But yeah, priority should also be the fans.
Yeah, for
in my
sure.
opinion.
Pros and cons basically, but yeah, it's better for the top teams, but it's definitely rough when you're not in the best of shapes. Anyways, last few topics for you as well. I mean, obviously, like this year is very difficult, but every single year as a pro player still means that you are racking in more experience and you are learning new things. So I would like to ask, is there still like a positive that you are taking away from 2024 and I guess maybe even like 2023, because it was a bit of a rough year for you. So for the last 2 years in this organization, which have been a bit rough since the 2022 days when you made the quarterfinals at Worlds, what have been your personal learnings and the things you've taken away from this that are maybe even going to help you like beat those results next year?
No, of course, there's always positive things in the bad things that happens in life. I definitely always try to think of the positive things and learn the things that I can from these like bad things. I mean, currently it's a bad thing, but maybe in the long run it ends up being a good thing due to like the struggles we've had. I mean, like now that we win games, at least I feel a lot more happy. Before when I would win, I wouldn't like really feel anything. It would be more of a relief because we're expected to always win. Now when I win, at least I get like a bit emotional even. I'm like really happy when we win. But of course, I mean, there are things to take away to learn, right? But now it's like pretty early, so I've only had 1 week. I haven't had proper time to reflect. But what I do know is that this will like make me a lot more hungry for the next year. So that's already something positive, right?
And also, I would like to ask you because, I mean, obviously you're not like a veteran player, like in the sense that you're like, for example, Caps that has been there for longer or something, or even like previous players like Perks that is no longer in the league. But you still are one of the longest standing players in the LEC because you've been there since 2019, I believe. And with the arrival of like a new wave of talent with Jackies and even Vladi now on K-Corp as well. And I guess technically even Nuke is a player that has been having a resurgence in recent years. How do you feel coming in as this kind of like old guard, I guess in quotation marks, of mid laners and having to prove yourself against these rookies again? And do you feel hungry as well to beat them and like prove that you still are like maybe above them or like at least at the same level as them as well?
No, definitely. I think it's a lot more fun now that some rookies have come in like Jackies and Vladi. Definitely, I give you some extra hunger to beat those kids, even though I haven't. They've been beating me.
Yeah.
But definitely give some extra motivation. And I think it's fun when new new kids come on the block, they like can give you things to learn due to them being so raw. So yeah, I mean, but I would definitely would consider myself a veteran. Yeah, definitely a bit more of the old guard. Not as old as Niski and Caps. They've been around for a very long time.
Yeah, and I mean, do you think also like the overall level of play in mid lane has been going up in the last few splits as well compared to the past?
I wouldn't say so. No, I feel like the level was probably higher in the past, but the level is like completely fine. I definitely feel like when I came to see the level was probably higher, but yeah.
Yeah. That aside, I mean, just to close off, I would like to ask you just a few more questions. I guess, like, for example, because obviously pre-2022, you guys were one of the more successful teams in the LEC, and you were often like regarded as the regular season kings as well, often like going into first or second place in the regular season, even if playoffs was maybe a bit more difficult sometimes. Rogue went through a lot of iterations, and I feel like since the change in ownership, maybe I guess like when Rogue became Koi and now went back to Rogue branding as well. How has the organization evolved throughout the years, at least in your eyes, because you've been there for quite some time since 2019, right? So what do you think is different between the current Rogue compared to this past Rogue, and maybe like some stuff changed in the organization side, in the coaching side, stuff like that? What do you think is maybe like a thing that is different compared to before?
I feel like it's not too different, honestly. But from my side, I'm not really involved like the office staff, and the people to my part, I'm just focused on winning and the competitive side. So it's definitely pretty similar, I would say. Like for me, I'm just playing the game and trying to win. So not too much has changed for me. Obviously, a lot of things changed when Koi came into the picture due to Ibai and the Spanish fans and all of that. But definitely, I don't feel like too much has changed. We're playing worse now than before. So.
Just to close off as well, I mean, obviously throughout the year, I can assume like you guys probably didn't have a lot of support because Rogue's fan base has been, I guess, dwindling since Koi ended up separating from the organization. And I mean, obviously there's still Anivai, which is like one of your biggest fans, right? You probably know her. And I would like to just ask, like, how has it been in Rogue, like, with the fans in general, and like have you still felt like support from the fans, and have they helped you as well get through all of these rough periods throughout the year as well?
Yeah, definitely. Like in the past, when fans were writing and we were winning, I didn't like appreciate the fans that much because we were like winning. I was like not feeling too down. But now that we're like having a rough time, like all the fans' messages like means a lot. Like cheers you up when you get like, I don't know, a letter from a fan or it's a message. I definitely still have some fans left,
Yeah.
and I appreciate them a lot. So definitely, like they mean a lot in these rough times.
This has already been a very long interview in any case, and a lot of questions that I've given you. But so I would just like to close off and ask if you have any last words, I guess, or anything you want to state before we close off, or do you have anything on your mind that you want to exteriorize, I guess?
Not really, no. I feel like we talked about other things, right? But yeah, I'm hoping EU will perform well at Worlds. That's my hope.
Perfect. All right. Well, in any case, Larssen, I'm very happy to have had this interview with you. And again, thank you for taking the time to talk with me, despite the rough circumstances as well for you guys. So I hope that things will be going better for you guys in the future, and hopefully you will have a great year in 2025. And yeah, just look forward to talking to you again, hopefully in better conditions as well.
Yep. I'll see you in the future. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. Thank you very much. And